Before I get started, I would like to say two very important things. One, I continue to follow Dr. Hovind despite our disagreements on a few doctrines and want his ministry to flourish as much as possible. And just to prove it, here is my statement of faith. Two, instead of preaching the word, he chooses to attack fellow soldiers, and so I requested a debate on this where I could defend the Catholic Church, but he refused. Now, let us begin.
Here's what happened. Shortly after the time of Christ, his disciples were simply called disciples, and then they began calling them Christians. In Acts 11, you can read that story. They started calling them Christians, and it was a mocking term. Oh, you're trying to act like Christ. You have Christ in you. You're Christian.
This may be a small point, but this is once again Dr. Hovind reading into the text something that he accuses everyone else of doing. There is no proof from the text that it was used as a mocking term.
It was a mocking term. So they started calling them Christians. So for the next 2,000 years, there have been a group of people that have been called, that simply called themselves Christian. Now later, the Catholic Church started persecuting them, and so because they were baptizing new converts out of the Catholic Church, and the church said they're already baptized when they're a baby, and they said no, that doesn't count. So they called them Anabaptist. You can Google ANNA, Anabaptist, and that was a mocking term. Then they shortened it just simply to Baptist. But still,
Actually, there is no historical record of Baptist or Anabaptist prior to the Protestant Reformation. The name Baptist was first used in the 16th century as a result of the Protestant Reformation. The name Anabaptist was first used after the Protestant Reformation and was largely inspired by Huldrych Zwingli. Remember that name, he is going to be important later. I challenge Dr. Hovind to find any reference to Baptist or Anabaptist when he proposes that they existed. Now, what came first is not necessarily right from a philosophical standpoint, but it does not help your case by being historically disingenuous.
then the Catholic Church started about 318 AD with Constantine, and so now there's two groups, both claiming the name Christian, and both believing very different things.
Again, that is also untrue and patently false, as any scholar of biblical or secular history will tell you. That is the date that Christianity was made legal within the Roman Empire and no longer had to be suppressed and limited to house churches. Also, where were these anachronistic Baptists during the Council of Nicaea when the Catholics were trying to renounce the heretic Arius in 325? And where were they when the Catholic Church at the same time put what we call the New Testament together?
Then Martin Luther was a Catholic priest. He read his Bible, a dangerous thing to do.
It never has been. The more that I read my Bible, the more that I see the Catholic Church, and maybe you will too someday. Also, as a priest, it would have been his job to read the Bible every day, if you want to be technical. Besides, with the lectionary, set readings in the day, he would have read through the whole Bible in a year many times by that point.
And he said, I protest. You guys are doing this wrong. He nailed 95 things the Catholic Church was doing wrong on the door in Wittenberg.
Have you ever read those? Probably not, as it is the same type of problem said many times. It is much closer to 5 to 10 problems, but Martin Luther was very long-winded about it.
He started the Protestant movement about the 1500s. So now there's three groups, all claiming the name Christian. You got the Baptist, well, I would say morphed into the Baptist, the Catholics, and now the Protestants, which split into 40 flavors, okay? The Lutheran, the Presbyterian, Methodist, etc.
Oh, now it morphed into the Baptists. Again, this is where the Baptists first came onto the scene. I would like to note that he forgot to mention the Catholic Orthodox split in 1054. Maybe that is where all of the Baptists and Anabaptists were hiding for all of those years. I would love to debate Dr. Hovind on this. He has declined me directly and via two proxies. The challenge is still open. I am sure that even though we disagree on arguably just a few things, we can still be civil. And to paraphrase you, Dr. Hovind, if you keep studying, one day you can be a Roman Catholic as well. And as you also love to say, converts make the best preachers.